Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm doing package opening video number 10. Finally made it to number 10. Thank you to everybody who is still checking out my videos. This video took me a little bit to make because of several reasons. The person who lives next door to me had a roof installed, which, as you can imagine, makes a lot of noise. And then he had solar panels installed, which made more noise. And then he had to have the roof reinstalled because the inspector came out and said, yeah, this isn't going to make it. So crazily enough, they had to redo the entire roof. I was just so shocked. Do you think that an inspector would even make them do that? I mean, how messed up could that roof have been to make them be like, we got to redo this whole roof? Like, wow, shocking to me. I was shocked that they would do that. I've been in property management for 30 years. And so I've done a ton of jobs, ton of re-roofing jobs, in charge of lots of jobs. I've never had a single inspector come out and make us redo an entire job. That just amazes me. So anyway, welcome back to the Kuchi-e Gallery YouTube channel. I appreciate you coming by to take a look. Today we're going to be doing a package open video. I just wanted to show you, I don't usually show off my paperwork, but I just wanted you guys to see, I've been holding on to this to do an opening since September of 2024. That's how long this package has been here. There's 6 prints in this box. All the prints are supposed to be by Suzuki Kinsen or Kinsen Suzuki, depending which way you prefer to say his name. I did a little pre-opening here just to make it easier because I know nobody likes to watch me open up packages, literally open them up, that is. So I just wanted to kind of get this pre-started so it could be a little smoother to take out of here. And yeah, welcome back. Today is March 19th, 2025. And yeah, I've just had a series of delays for whatever reason. So I have 2 packages to open. I have this package we're doing right now, and I also have another package which only has a single print in it. So I'm going to try and rock both of these out today, although I won't be posting them exactly today. Obviously, I have to do editing and so on. But anyway, yeah, so thanks for coming by. I'm really happy to say I have 45 subscribers. So if you are one of my 45 subscribers, I absolutely appreciate you coming by and watching my videos. You know, I'm not doing this as some method of becoming wealthy. I am doing it because I really love woodblock prints and Kuchi-e specifically. And yeah, so I do this because I love it, and hopefully people who come by here want to stop by and check out what I'm doing because they love it. You know, that's why I'm doing these videos, and I do them for you guys, and I do them for myself because I also like to know that this content is out there. Not a lot of videos on Kuchi-e, so I'm trying to put some content out about Kuchi-e. So this is from a Japanese gallery called Yamada Shoten. Yamada Shoten is one of my least favorite galleries to buy from. They often have excellent products. They have, you know, woodblock prints in fantastic condition, and they offer excellent prints for sale. So you might ask yourself, well, what wouldn't you like about that? Well, the thing I don't like about it is that they have an absolutely antiquated system of doing business. I have to say that in the modern times, they have a system that is the most difficult to buy from for anybody who lives in the United States. Yamada Shoten, as you might imagine, is in Japan. It's in an area of Tokyo called Jinbocho, or Jimbocho, depending on how people pronounce it. Ooh, sorry, that's an annoying noise. But anyway, they are a long-term, well-established company selling woodblock prints and books and all things woodblock and Japanese art from this era. Okay, so it looks like they just put them all in one stack. So maybe this will be fairly quick to do. I'm going to zoom in just a tad. So hang on just a moment while I do that. Try to get this to be fairly clean. I have my paper here to show on, and I think I'm just going to go one by one. So let's go one by one. I'm going to start with this first print. I don't remember these prints at all. Not in any way, shape, or form do I remember what I purchased from these guys. So here we go. This is print number 1. This is a print by Suzuki Kinsen. I will use the term Suzuki Kinsen. I don't know if it's pronounced Kinsen Suzuki or Suzuki Kinsen, but I'm just going to go with Kinsen Suzuki. Or Suzuki Kinsen, sorry. Apologies. So Suzuki Kinsen, I have been collecting Suzuki Kinsen's Kuchi-e prints since I first began collecting which has been about 15 years. I started collecting woodblocks about 15, almost 16 years ago, and I started collecting Kuchi-e within a year or two of starting to collect ukiyo-e, or Japanese woodblock prints in general. Kinsen, Suzuki Kinsen, he is known for doing dynamic, action-related prints, a lot of dramatic prints, so prints that have like fighting scenes, a lot of sword scenes. His prints will have blood often. There will be drama. He was known for doing prints that were, there were main companies like Bunjai Karabu, Enge Karabu. Like there were these mainline, mainstream sort of literary magazines of the period. These companies were basically printing magazines and books, as I often say, from 1890 roughly until 1915 up to 1920, kind of at the latest. I mean, there were some, a few done later than that, but they mostly petered out by the late 19 teens. They mostly had petered out. You'll get some as late as 1920, maybe even 1925. I know Kaburagi Kukata has some into the 1930s even, but they are just rare items at that point. They're not common at all. So Kinsen Suzuki Kinsen, God, which one will I stick with? All right, let's go with Kinsen Suzuki. Kinsen Suzuki was known for these dramatic prints. Now, these printed magazines tended to be very low quality comparatively. So you can get a copy of Bunjai Karabu today that'll be in really excellent condition, almost look like new in some cases. The books that Suzuki Kinsen put his books in were definitely not, they were not as high quality. The paper tended to be very acidic. So a lot of the prints end up having kind of an orangish tone. Even this one that we're looking at right now has a slight orangey quality, although I don't think it's actually got any issues. Matter of fact, no, it was folded, but this has been pressed flat. It barely has any folds in it at all. But anyway, let's take a look at this one. So here, there were a lot of like detective stories, mysteries, broken up romances, dramatic relationship problems, 3 couples, thruples, denied love, all that kind of stuff. So a lot of drama, a lot of interesting things that could make very interesting prints related to. So, like a lot of drama, like I said, fighting scenes. He did some monsters. He just was an amazing artist. He had a very wide breadth of talent, but he was most known for and most, let's say, contracted for doing these kind of dramatic fight scenes. This one isn't a fight scene. This one is probably one of those love scenes. Judging by the hat of this gentleman on the upper left over here, it could be a detective novel. He also was doing, there also were like detective novels and that sort of thing. But here we have a beauty who is being talked to by a young man here on the middle. And on the upper left, we have kind of a sinister or a curious or a, something dramatic is going on with this guy in the upper left. He's in a little spotlight and he's staring intently at this couple. And it could be the father, could be the brother, could be the romantic rival. We don't know. But here we have a nice scene. It's just a typical scene of a in the house, and you have the screens being slit open. She's addressing this young man. This guy's up here. Now, this was a typical Kuchi-e trope at one point. It did fade away after a while. I would say after 1900, this was a much less used trope, but the subset of an image within an image with the curling paper, this was very, very common pre-1900 and still common after the 1900s, but I mean after 1900 specifically, but less so. More prints had a single large beauty or a single large couple or a single large scene, less with a subset of an like print within a print or a design within a design. This kind of thing had gone away mostly after 1905 or so. So here we have the signature of Kinsen Suzuki down at the bottom here on the left side. We have his seals here. And again, I don't know anything about the plot of this. Now we can see that this has binding holes. So this was either, more likely it was in a book that actually had a string-bound book. So again, that's probably an earlier book. So I'm going to say this is probably around 1900 or before, maybe as early as 1895. But string binding was less popular and less common again after 1900 also. So anyway, here we have some string bound holes, which I could patch later should I choose to do so, which I may or may not. This print is not particularly a valuable print. One of the things I like about Yamada Shoten, if you decide to shop there, going back to why I don't like shopping there. So the thing about Yamada Shoten is they release all their prints at once. So like they would have an update, say, that will say, oh, we're releasing, in this case, they released like 30 or 40 prints or 50 prints, all almost universally. They were by Suzuki Kinsen. And so they released all of them, and some of them are absolutely amazing. I mean, there was monsters, there was blood, there was just, dramatic, amazing samurai scenes. There was just some fantastic prints in this lot that they released. But in order to buy them, you can't just click buy it now and go to the cart and check out. You have to send them an email listing the prints you want. This is an absolute nightmare of a way to order prints in this modern day. Plus, in Japan, you're dealing with like several hours ahead or behind. So you have to, so by the time I saw this, I think it was like 3 in the morning or 4 in the morning when I got up to like use the bathroom or something. And I was like, oh, crud, there's a release. And so I sent off all the 20 pieces I wanted. And of course, all the amazing ones were already long gone because the people in Japan got it at 3 o'clock in the afternoon or whatever time it was. And they bought all the great prints up. This doesn't even include all the people in, Europe and Spain and Italy and, Japan and China and everywhere else that wants to collect these. So it is a very difficult system to buy from. I think I've probably purchased maybe 10 or 15 items from them over the years, mostly because it's absolutely incredibly disheartening to send off a list of 40 pieces that you want, and then you find out that 38 of them are already sold, and the 2 you get are the least ones you wanted anyway. So that's kind of how I feel. I do like all these prints, and I bought them because they were very affordable. That's one thing I will say about Yamada Shoten. They have very affordable prints in good condition. So I do like them, and I value them as a company. Excuse me. I have a bit of a sore throat, so you're going to hear me taking some ginger tea from every now and then. But yeah, so they definitely do have a situation where it's very difficult to order if you're overseas. And, I don't think it happens for all the people in Japan. The thing that irritates me is that a lot of the people are just flippers. So they buy them and then they immediately just put them on eBay at 5 times or 10 times the price. So yeah, I could go buy those prints that I wanted if I want to pay 10 times the price. I mean, one day I will open an art gallery and I'll be selling the prints I purchased, but I've been purchasing prints over 15 years. I'm not typically a person that buys something and then just, immediately flips it for profit. And I have a very specific kind of ideas about flippers. So a lot of people are like, oh, flippers, scalpers, these people are scummy. Firstly, I don't think people who scalp or whatever are scummy. I think everybody does things for a reason. And we are living in a society. I'm done with this print, by the way. I'm going to go put it away. We live in a society where capitalism is the way of the day. People are trying to survive, so they buy things, and they buy things and they sell them, and then they buy more things. Now, there are several reasons someone might do this. Okay, yes, there might be a reason where somebody likes to, someone might be the kind of person who just wants to make quick money and they're just doing it for a profit. That's definitely not me. I am a hardcore collector of Kuchi-e and woodblock prints. And when I buy something and resell it, I'm usually reselling it solely for the reason that I want to buy more. So I am trying to raise capital because, my wife is not going to be extremely happy with me just buying everything I want all the time. Those of you who collect woodblock prints out there that have partners, you know how this goes. People are not going to generally just, say, oh, yeah, you can buy whatever you want, honey. Sure, spend all the money you wish on woodblock prints. No, that's not how it works. You got to sell things sometimes so you can buy other things. Okay, here we have print number 2. Excuse me for a moment. I'm going to blow my nose, which I apologize for greatly. Fortunately, I have a bit of a lingering cold, which I apologize for. Okay, so here we have another scene. So I think these are most of the kind of prints that I got from this thing. Like I said, there was some amazing prints. I actually pulled some of my prints that I find really amazing that are by Suzuki Kinsen, and I will show them to you guys at the end. I'm going to just kind of flush through some prints quickly so you can get a view of what I think are his higher quality type prints. So the other interesting thing about this artist is Kinsen Suzuki has the highest known number of Kuchi-e prints, I think, output of any artist. I have a DVD which I've spoken about many times, which is called it's a print by Tomo Asahi, and I believe it's put out by a museum in Japan that is run. I think it has some connection to a museum in the Netherlands. Anyway, I'm not exactly sure about that. But it's called the ARC, the ARC, and they have a large database. And Tomo Asahi has been putting his Kuchi-e prints on that database. So anyway, if you go to the DVD, which Tomo Asahi had put out with in conjunction with Bunsen, which is like this publisher, and if you go to look at this DVD, they have a listing of each of those Kuchi artists. So you'd have like Kiyokata, whatever, and then at some point you get down to Kinsen Suzuki. And when you are looking at his prints, he has the most. I think he has like 300 or 400 or 500 prints listed. I have spoken to Tomo Asahi, and according to him, there's well over 1,000 designs. So plenty of prints for anybody to collect by this artist if you're interested in this kind of scenes. A lot of them are fight scenes, lover scenes, mystery, drama, like I said. So here we have a couple standing outside in the moonlight. A really nicely, aesthetically pleasing, beautifully designed print. Again, we have binding holes, so that tells us this is going to be a print that's around 1900, but it could be as early as 1895 and as late as 1905, somewhere in there. And then we have this person in the window over here who is taking a listen to what they're talking about. It's probably a mother or a sister. She looks a little bit older, I'm going to say. But in any event, you have somebody here with a samurai do, or a samurai cut, which is like a low, shaggy haircut on top. It tended to go with a ruffian, let's just say. I don't know exactly how they called that, but yeah, like it went with like a street knight kind of vibe, or I don't know, street warrior, let's just say. He's not even wearing a sword though, so who knows? But anyway, you have these people chatting in the moonlight, and they're chatting outside the window. This person is listening in. Again, we have binding holes here, so we have a string-bound book, and you see the signature here on the left side. And yeah, just a very nice print. Interesting. Again, actually, this one has no fold lines, so I don't know where this came from. It was not from a book, clearly. I mean, it was in a string-bound book at some point, but that could have been an album. So this may have been taken from an album, since they had like 50 prints that they sold all at once. Maybe they took them out of a string-bound album. So yeah, so this one actually has no fold lines. So this one was never inserted into a book, as far as I can tell, other than the album that it was placed into when Yamada Shoten got it. Anyway, it's a very nice print, nicely designed, just a pretty aesthetic of these people chatting in the moonlight. Nice peach color here. I really like this color. It's very, very uncommon in woodblock prints, and every time I see it, I'm always amazed by the depth and the level of color that these printers and publishers could get sometimes. It's basically similar to the face here and here. I don't actually love this on the face when it's too harsh. This one's not too bad, but sometimes they make it like almost garishly pinkish red, and I really dislike that. This one I don't happen to think is too bad. And this color in the back of the window here is very nice. It obviously gives a vibe of a light inside of a house. So really nicely done. Got some shrubbery down here. Just a beautiful print. Very nicely done. I am going to move along fairly quickly today. These prints that I'm looking through, I don't know a lot about them. I will put the information up here somewhere once I am able to find it, if I'm able to find it. The downside to Suzuki Kinsen having so many prints in the database, or that there are so many that he's made, is that a huge ton of them are undocumented. So I find prints by Suzuki Kinsen all the time. Like I have I don't know, I probably have 100, something like that, prints by this artist in particular. And I would say that, of the 100 pieces that I have, here's the next one. Of the 100 pieces that I have, I don't have any info on more than half of them. So when I put them in my book and I'm trying to inventory them, I go through the Yamada, the Nanako Yamada books, which I have all of them. And there are 2 that are titled Survey, which have over 1,000 prints listed. And, hardly any by Suzuki Kinsen are in there. And so, yeah, it's very challenging to come up with prints and to know anything about them when they were printed, when they were published. I have some that are in books, and obviously those I can figure out. But the vast majority of the prints I have are not in the book still, because, like I said, those books were poor quality in a lot of instances. So they're very deteriorated. They're very acidic pages. So people tended to remove them so that the prints could be preserved. Okay, in this one we have another scene with a man and a woman chatting. This one, the quality of the print is not quite as high. You can see that the printing and the painting is really over the edges here. So it's a really a later copy of this particular design. Still pretty tight in the background. Actually, the background looks pretty good. We have some silver here, so you can see there's silver here, and there's silver also on this background here. There's no silver in the sword because the sword is not exposed. It looks like she might be getting ready to commit seppuku, so which is ritual suicide. So she has a short sword here. He has a long sword. In the tradition of seppuku, the person who is going to be committing seppuku would cut themselves on their stomach, which sounds actually horrific to me and painful like beyond belief. And then they would have a second who would cut off their head. So yeah, it's a pretty gruesome practice. But anyway, it is the way the tradition ran. I don't know if they're setting it up like this, but this is an awful lot what this looks like traditionally. Maybe she's also going to cut her hair. There was a cutting of hair tradition. So, maybe this is a cutting the hair instead of cutting the neck. Who knows? But anyway, it's just an interesting design. You have a man and a woman. You have the Suzuki Kinsen signature and seal here on the bottom left. Again, the printing is not fantastic on this one. It's kind of sloppy. Like you can see how really this is really awful right here. Like I don't know. There may have been supposed to be a black color or another color in these spots that are exposed. Like it would make sense to me if there was a dark blue or a dark green or a dark black or something that was covering these things up. Because it makes it look very sketchy, which is very uncommon. So again, I think these were less expensive books, less expensive literary magazines, and the quality of the prints could not be as high because they didn't charge as much money. Let's take a look at the back. This one has a fold line. So this one was folded, and you can see that the bleed through is pretty clear. And yeah, it's just another decent design. Again, these were fairly inexpensive. I think I paid about $50 or $60 something each. They're not really that expensive, these, which is, one of the things I love about Yamada Shoten. But like I said, it's so complicated and difficult to buy from them that, even if you find something for free, it doesn't matter because you're not going to be able to get it. Like there's just not enough, there's just too much delay. So I'm also very curious if they go in order or not. Like do they offer those prints to their select clients first? I mean, if I had a client that was spending a ton of money at my place, I would definitely be offering it to them first, right? I mean, of course, if you have somebody that's a good client, you're definitely going to think about offering it to them first. If Yamada Shoten does that, then you have to wait for them to weed through all the other people before they get to yours. So what are the chances you're going to get them? Not great. Now, they do sometimes have prints that you might want that are not as, they're just not as, say, desirable to others. I mean, everybody collects different genres of woodblock prints. I collect Kuchi-e, I collect, some Osaka-e, but there are definitely people who collect all different types. Some people collect modern prints. Some people collect Sosukuhanga. You just don't know. And so you can go there and find prints that you can absolutely order because they're available because there's not a huge crowd of people clamoring for them all at once. So you can still find great deals. So if you're looking for good woodblock prints, I definitely suggest you check Yamada Shoten. They have some really wonderful designs, and the quality can be decent. Okay, let's take a look at this design. Here you have a woman who is dressed as a courtesan. So you have a courtesan appearing woman here, and then you have a man who is sort of subjugating himself next to her. And I'm not sure what this would be. Like, so you can see they have the folded page, and they have a like a traditional style house in the back here, but I don't understand the connection between the two. This is clearly, maybe this is the inside of this house. I just don't know what the point of this was. But you have a little twig or a branch here that's painted onto the screen in the back here. You have a burner here, like a heater. And then you have a woman. Now she has, I can't tell what that is. It could, oh, it's a pipe. So she has a pipe of some sort. She's clearly dressed in a very dramatic hairstyle. And we do have some, can you guys see that? There is some, there it is. See that bokashi, not bokashi, sorry, I mean the burnishing in the hair right there. So they were still, this print was not the last of the run. Like, when they're still doing things like bokashi, which is the fading, which they've done here in the background. So you have this fading of color in the back. Those are the things they take out when the prints are becoming like towards the end of the print run and they're starting to really just like be finished with the printing. And they do pump out cheaper designs towards the end. When they do that, they start letting go of the bokashi, which is this fading of color. They'll take out the burnishing and stuff like that. Those are all extra expensive features that you have in prints. So anyway, here we have a man who is sort of subjugating himself in front of this courtesan, probably pleading for something, I'm guessing, probably in love with her. Again, we have binding holes. This is not very common that you have binding holes on both sides. So this time we have binding holes here and we have binding holes here. Now, there are several ways to patch binding holes. I might as well talk about this since we're on the topic. This one, it was folded, but again, it's been pressed flat at some point. But the way people make repairs to binding holes is typically, as you collect woodblock prints, as most people realize, when you're collecting woodblock prints, you're going to end up with some damaged prints or prints that were just extra. Like say you buy a group of prints and it came with 3 that you wanted and 1 that you didn't care about at all. Excuse me. You will end up with these extra prints that are not in good shape, something you wouldn't necessarily or couldn't even resell. And so what a lot of people do is when they get these damaged prints, they keep them for later. And they'll develop over time, 10 or 15 years of collecting, a large stack of, prints that are not in great condition. And so what you do is when you're going to make patches to a print like this that has binding holes, you go through your damaged, leftover pieces, or otherwise you just have pieces of washi. You do want to make sure you're using the correct paper when you make any kind of repair in a Japanese print. And you'll just go to the back, you get some nori paste. You go to the back and you brush a little bit on here where the hole is, and then you take the piece of patch and you push it right on top there, and you brush more nori paste on top. That's it. If you can match the color, like say you had a print that had a little bit of a beigey brown color that would match this, or something just even close, like as long as it's not red or orange or green or white or even black would probably fit right here. If it's close enough, it'll work fine. Nobody will barely even notice it because there's a lot of different colors in here. So as long as you get close and it's not white, you can see white shows up, and so would red, and so would green, and black would certainly show up here, but up here black might not even show up. So you have a lot of options, and most people just take a tiny little piece and they cover those holes, and most people wouldn't even notice them. These are not considered damage necessarily. I do think that if you were buying a 250,000 Great Wave off Kanagawa print, then yes, it would be considered damage and it would be part of a condition report. But anytime you buy a woodblock print, oftentimes it'll say there are small, minor repairs from the back. There are minor professionally repaired repairs from the back. Professional repairs in this instance just means covering the hole with something that matches in color, because you're not going to be able to do much else. There are ways to actually fill in these holes. There is a subset of repairs that allows you to make kind of a, it makes like this pulpy paper pulp. There's a guy named, he has a book called The Care and Repair of Japanese Woodblock Prints. His name is Carl Schubstrauder, I think. But he made this book called The Care and Repair of Japanese Woodblock Prints. And, it's a very interesting book. For anybody that wants to know about repairing woodblock prints, this is the book. I happen to have a copy right here. Carl Schraubstadler. Carl Schraubstadler. This version here has an addendum by Doanda Randall. Now, I never saw the one without the addendum, but the addendum is really kind of crucial to this book. So this guy goes through, he covers backing, he covers straightening, he covers bleaching, he covers inlays, making repairs, spots and stains, stripping. He covers everything. I have read most of this book. I use maybe a few things I've learned from this book. However, with a big caveat. As the editor's note here in the front of the addendum, okay, as indicated in the preface to the second edition, the serious reader is urged to consult this addendum before using any of the methods, procedures, and or chemicals recommended by the author. Now, the reason she puts that is because modern conservation came in after this guy made this book. This guy was a hardcore, you know, very dedicated woodblock print collector, and he tried a lot of stuff personally to make repairs, to, you know, try to figure out how to ways to get the colors to go whiter or cleaner. You know, he tried all kinds of cool stuff, and he made a lot of mistakes, and he damaged a lot of prints in the process. But we can benefit from the work and the the probably thousands of dollars of prints he ruined trying to go through this process. So it is a great book. It's kind of expensive. I think I paid $150 for this book, but you can find them on eBay sometimes for like $50. So anybody who wants one of these, I definitely recommend looking it up. The Care and Repair of Japanese Prints by Karl Schraubstatter. And it goes through step by step what he tried. Again, read the addendum before you try any of these things, because she talks about how some of these things are really not good. And she also makes suggestions for things you can use as an alternative. So great book. Highly recommend it for anybody who wants to try doing their own repairs. I will be doing some repairs on video shortly. Well, not shortly, because I'm kind of a slow production guy, but at some point in the near future, I'll be doing a long, it's going to be quite a lengthy repair, actually. That repair that I'm going to do is a triptych that has a lot of wormholes, but it is such an amazing print. People will be really cool to check it out. It's a really, one of the more like kind of violent Kuniyoshi prints. It has like a it has like a ton of cutoff heads. It's unbelievable, actually. And anyway, I need to make those repairs, so I'm going to do it on camera so people can see how I do it. And then if they want to try it themselves, it'll give them an idea what it takes. It is definitely not easy, and you have to have a little bit of gumption, like you have to a little bit of balls to do it, because it's not really something that you're going to feel great about doing. It's scary. It's scary. You can dunk woodblock prints straight into water. A lot of people don't know this, but as long as your print doesn't have aniline dyes and it's made with vegetable dyes, you can just basically dunk them straight in water and you can pull them out. You just dry them out and they'll be basically back to new. You will lose a tiny bit of color, so I'm not going to lie. Some people will say there's no effect, but actually there are minor paint pigments that are kind of on the surface. You can definitely lose those. By the same token, you can clean some stains off. There are huge pluses. But I will say this, when you put a woodblock print into water, it becomes almost boneless. Like it just, like it's very easy to damage them when they're wet. So don't get me wrong, the paper is very strong. When they make the paper, they put it in water when they're doing the process. So, it definitely can hold up to the water, but as the person doing the work, you can absolutely rip them, tear them, damage them. They get stuck together and you can't, when you're trying to peel them apart, they rip. There definitely are, it's kind of scary. That's all I'm going to say. Feel free to try it if you wish. I've done it several times. Usually people do this when they're trying to remove backing or when they're trying to remove prints from an album. So that's when they usually do it. Okay, here's the next print. This is print number 5. I think there's only one more design after this. And again, here we have another outside a house scene. These mostly seem to be outside the house scene. So here we have another scene where you have a beauty. She has 4 swords in her arms. She is kind of squatting down, looking sort of over her shoulder to see if anybody's following her. Now she's carrying a giant lantern, which probably would be a dead giveaway if anybody was nearby, but it is a nice effect. So there are many times and ways that they do this lighting effect in Japanese woodblock prints. The most effective way that they do it is when they have a different color where the lamp is. This one thankfully does that. Some of them, they just do like a weird line and they barely make any difference, and it is really not very effective. This happens to be fairly effective. So here you have 2 men that are in, I don't know if it's like a prison or what. I don't know if this is a lock. I'm not sure what this represents. It looks like a lock to me. So as you can see, there's tumblers here. So I'm guessing this is an early version of a lock of some kind. And so these guys are locked in here. Now, she's got 4 swords. I'm presuming she's going to maybe pass them through the window and they can use their sword to cut through the wood. I don't know. But in any event, we have a woman bringing swords to maybe some prisoners or some people that are locked up for some reason. It's kind of a dynamic scene. It's dramatic scene. Definitely, this fits right in with Suzuki Kinsen's style. This is kind of stuff he did. Like I said, I didn't get any of the most amazing prints from this batch at all. I just got the ones that were basically left over. And they're still nice and they're still beautiful. And for 50, 60 bucks a piece, they're worth getting. But I would much rather have had the monsters and, the blood and the dynamic fighting scenes that were pretty amazing, because there were some of those for sure. I mean, there was one that had like a bunch of rats dressed up as samurai. I mean, there were some really cool pieces, but unfortunately I didn't get them. So anyway, you have the binding holes again. So I don't know if this came from the same, series, or I don't know what. Definitely, I can feel the paper has a weakness here, so it was creased at some point. But just a nice design. This one happens to be very well printed. A couple of the pieces that I got are just so-so in the printing department. This one looks pretty amazing. The the way the lines match and the colors in the right areas looks excellent. The overprinting is nice, and yeah, generally it's just a nice print. Yeah, not sure what the plot line is here, but clearly these guys got captured and she's helping them get out. So again, binding holes on both sides. So covering these up would take me, 15 minutes probably. It's not hard to do. What I end up doing a lot, because I don't have that many damaged prints, I really go out of my way not to buy prints that have damage. So most of my prints tend to be in pretty good condition, or, I like to think they're in amazing condition, but they're in reasonably good condition. And I mean, this is taking everything with a grain of salt. Japanese woodblock prints are 100 to 200 years old. So, very easy, 150 to 250 years old, 300 years old. I mean, you're basically, when you say something is in excellent condition, it depends, A, how many pieces are there left in the world of that print, and what the other copies look like, So saying something, oh, well, this doesn't look like it's in good condition because of X, Y, and Z. Well, how many other copies are there? What do they look like? You might have the piece that's in the best known condition, which is kind of why I think it's very interesting that people do condition, and they'll be like, oh, well, this is not in good condition because of this. But if it's only 2 copies known in the world, does it even matter what the condition is? You have one of only 2 pieces known to exist. Like, does it even matter whether or not they're cut into the margin, or, there's a slight tear in the paper, or there's a few repairs in the back? Like, those things are so unnecessarily, like, pointing them out, you have to do it because it's what the people do as dealers. But yeah, when you're dealing with something that's as rare as some of these items are, pointing out that they had a tear that was repaired is sort of silly in a way. I mean, yes, you have to do it as a seller, but to say like, oh, it's damaged, so I don't think it's worth buying. I mean, these prints are very rare, some of them. So trying to buy a print that's extremely rare and expecting it to be 200 years old and not have any damage is kind of silly. Of course, there's going to be damage. I mean, these things are, a lot of these prints are from a period that was when Abe Lincoln was president, and before he was president, before he was even alive, So yeah, pretty incredible stuff. Anyway, so some binding holes need to be filled here, but I actually like this design. This is a very nice design. And again, nice bold signature here at the bottom. Nice artist seal. Most of the signatures and seals on these, I've noticed, are kind of from the same period, it looks like. So I'm guessing that, whoever collected these was somebody of the time. There were definitely collectors of woodblock prints during the period when these were made. And that's why we have the collector's albums that come up for sale, because the people of the time would buy these. They would glue them with nori paste into books, which worked very well as long as there was no aniline dye. If the aniline dye was already in use, then those prints, oftentimes the red bled, or the orange, or some of the fugitive colors, as they call it, bled very hard. They bled very hard and ruined those prints in a lot of cases, which really sucks. So anyway, here's the last print. This is actually the best print of the bunch, so I'm kind of glad it's last. I actually have 2 of this design. I don't know where the other one is. I was going to try and find it so I could show you guys both, but I don't know where it is. I did a quick look through my books, but I didn't see it. So maybe it's in a book. I mean, when I say books in this case, I meant my folios like this that have other prints. I did find some, but I wasn't able to find this one, so I don't have anything to compare it with. But yeah, anyway, they're both really nice. I remember my copy is actually a little bit better than this one, but they're both good. So this is bean throwing. I don't actually know what this is. I think it's a good luck New Year's thing, maybe. I'm not sure what the bean throwing has to do with anything. I'm sure it's a custom. I'm just not familiar. I don't know if it's New Year's or what it is. But this gentleman, samurai, clearly warrior, has blood kind of all over him. So I don't know if that's just part of the act. I don't know if it's like, like a reenactment sort of thing where this guy's reenacting some battle scene and they throw beans as some sort of, I don't know what. I know that um, this particular glove, I guess you'd say, with these like lines on it, I have several prints, that feature these gloves. And I don't know if they feature the same guy or not. If I could find it, I would try and inset it up here for you guys to see. But anyway, so yeah, this is an interesting print. You have a young girl who's carrying the beans. So she has a box full of the beans. Here are the beans that he's throwing in the air. You have this kind of really nice, beautiful detail on the side here where someone's added just some flowers, some like beautiful floral rain. They're actually in silver. She has silver on her as well. He doesn't have any silver though, but he does have burnishing, which I'm not sure if you guys can see the burnishing or not. You see that burnishing on the upper collar up there? See how it's a little bit, let's see. Oh, there's very little of it. See how it's a little bit glary on the upper shoulder there? Anyway, but yeah, it's just a nice print. You have people that are crossing a bridge. They're throwing some beans. You have a warrior here. Now here we've gotten into a more updated signature. So those other prints we've been looking at were older, and this is more current. So I'm going to say this print is probably closer to 1910, maybe even later. But yeah, definitely further on in his career. We have a very different signature style here, and we have a different, although actually the seal is very similar. But anyway, yeah, so very nice print. Just aesthetically very pleasing, beautiful design, bloody samurai dude, smiling little girl next to him holding the beans. And yeah, I don't really know what it represents, but it's really cool and a very nice design. It's not necessarily dynamic, but it certainly shows action, which is nice. Let's take a look at the back. The back of the print, yeah, the bleed through is obviously very evident. This was definitely an earlier print from this edition because you have the silver, you have the bokashi, you have the silver on here as well. Plus you have, like I said, there's a little bit of burnishing where the black areas are. Those are all, like I said, special techniques. So anything showing those is definitely going to be an earlier print from an edition, if they ever made anything different. They might have all been exactly the same. Like I said, I have another edition of this print, and I'll try to post it up here if I can find it to compare the two so that people can get a look at what that looks like when we compare these, just to see. The one I have, I don't remember it having this stuff on the side here. So yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to compare them and check it out. So again, these have been 6 prints by Kinsen Suzuki, or Suzuki Kinsen, depending how you want to say it. I've heard it both ways over and over again, so much so that I have a hard time saying it one way or the other. And the other thing to keep in mind is I don't usually say these artists' names out loud. I'm typically writing them, and they just flow off, to me. I usually call him Kinsen. So I don't know. I guess I don't know if that's how his name is said or not. Excuse me. So in any event, this is gonna be the end of this portion where I show you the new prints I bought. I did want to show everybody a few prints that I've collected over the years by this same artist. Matter of fact, I think it's interesting because one of the books that I have here, when I say books, I mean the collector folios that I use to put my prints in. One of these folios, one of these folios has a, I think it's my first book actually. So that will show you that even early on, I was actually collecting this guy's work from the very get-go. So his stuff is always available. Like if you're collecting Kuchi-e, you will find Kinsen Suzuki Kinsen. You will find his prints available because he made so many. You just can't help it. But oftentimes they are in poor condition, which sucks. Even the ones that I bought here, like I said, they were $50 to $60 or whatever. Maybe less. I don't remember the price. But they were not necessarily the most expensive prints, is my point. But just so you know, they are usually available, and oftentimes they are in very good condition. So I labeled these. I actually have a lot more prints in these by the same artist, but I didn't want to show all of them. I just wanted to show ones I thought were pretty special and unique and they were very well done, or particularly dynamic, or something along those lines. I absolutely love this design. So this is in my book number 1. This is the first book I made about Kuchi-e. And this is, again, you're seeing, that I put this print here, and this is how much I love this guy's art right from the start. Now, this one is particularly fantastic. I absolutely love this design. So when I find Kuchi-e that have a full design, like a fully rendered side to side, everything is totally printed to the T, like it's printed all the way to the border and all the colors are intact. It's like a full rendered image. When I find those types of images, I think they are amazing. I wish I could find more like this. They did make them, of course. So they definitely did have prints of this style, and everybody would like those ultimately. But you're not always going to find them because they're more desirable, especially by the more popular artists. So in any event, so this is just a beautiful design. Again, now we have that subset. Remember earlier I was talking about how they kind of got rid of these subsets. They still use them, but in this case, you can see how effective this is. So you have this, again, like a warrior of some sort. It looks like he's wringing out. So you can see down here, he's kind of wringing out his clothing because he's wet. We have rain. So we have the rain showing up here. We have the rain lines showing up. We have her from inside something. Now, I don't know if this is just supposed to be him here and she's like right outside the screen here. Like, I don't know what we're looking at. Like, this could be the same building. I don't know whether it's just a way of bringing them together and yet making them separated by having this door right here, which puts her in a different part of the world. She could be right outside the print right here. We don't know. But whatever it is, he's looking at her clearly from afar and she's kind of saying goodbye, it looks like. So yeah, just a really fantastic design. I love the rain. I love the rain clouds. You can see the burnishing in the hair very clearly. See that burnishing in that hair? Everybody who collects woodblocks loves this. I don't love it when it reflects a lot, but I love it when it's nicely done. And this is particularly nicely done. See those lines? That's how it should look. Sometimes they overdo it and it's just a big blob of black. They also did the sword. The sword is also burnished. You can see they even took the time to burnish in the handle. So where the handle of the sword is, they burnished in between. We have some silver here. We have silver in her clothing as well, here and here. And yeah, so this is just a very high level, well-made, well-designed, from a very good company print. And I just love it. I think it's extremely nice. And I would love to buy a couple more of these, actually. One downside is whoever made this paper, there is a piece of stick in the paper. This is one of the things about washi paper that I think is kind of amazing sometimes, is that you will find prints that have this kind of mark. If you touch this right here, you can't feel it actually, and yet it's only on the other side. So the print, I don't know, actually it's hard to tell. It can be removed if you're very, very, very good at doing this kind of thing. So what you have to do, what I've done before, is I'll take an X-Acto blade and cut this from the back. And you have to cut through a single layer of washi to do this. Because look, if you mess it up, you're basically cutting part of the face off. But you can cut this from the back and you can peel that stick out of there. Now, there are washi papers that had these sticks in them, and sometimes you'll find them in very unconsiderate areas. Like in this case, you're finding this essentially in the face, which is not something anybody would want. So, but yeah, beautiful print. The bleed through is very evident. You can see beautiful bleed through here, and just really nice. I really love this design. I wish I had more prints like this. These, I mean, I have a lot, but you know, these kind of prints that are fully developed with just really beautiful dynamic scenes, they're just so hard to find, and there aren't that many, you know. So this is one. I'm going to show you a few others if you bear with me. If you got this far, I super appreciate you being here. And here's another Kinsen Suzuki print that I won't show you. These are the much rougher designs. See how the printing is just all over the place? It's outside the lines. It's very rough. These were, you know, I buy these because they're very inexpensive. You know, they're just, I'll buy them for like $20 or $30 or, you know, $15. I mean, they're just not, they're not a print I necessarily want to keep, but just a print, you know, that is inexpensive, that somebody might want for their Suzuki Kinsen's collection. So yeah. Sorry, let me put that back together. Here's another one of those prints, which I think I showed before, but this print is another one of those fully developed prints. It's got a ghost. This is Kunakazu, different artist, but I love this print too. Okay, moving on. Sorry, I distracted. I love looking at Kuchi-e prints, as you all might be able to tell. All right, let's see. So I got a couple in here. Let me see the ones that I chose to show. Oh yeah, this one is really amazing. This, at the time that I purchased this, this was the most money I'd spent on a Kuchi-e print. And you'll see why in a second. So this design is fantastic. Again, it's a monster design. You have a giant cat, and you have a guy with a sword. And I think the cat is supposed to have multiple tails, but it's kind of hard to tell because the wind or whatever these lines are supposed to be kind of cut through. They kind of cut through the cat's tail, but I believe it's like a 9-tailed cat or a 2-tailed cat, or it's some sort of cat, gigantic cat, monster. I love this design. I did pay a lot for it. I think it was several $100s, maybe $300 actually. But again, worth it because I haven't seen another copy in this condition for sale. I'm not saying they won't come up. I'm sure they will, but I haven't seen them if they were. Let's take a close look. So we have a samurai or a warrior battling a ginormous cat, and that is the whole scene. It's a very large print area. So basically the cat and the warrior take up the entire page, and it's just a great print. But yeah, I believe there's 2 tails here. It's kind of hard to tell because of this swishing wind or whatever this is, line work is supposed to be. Obviously, it's a dramatic effect. We have leaves falling down, and there's some leaves here and here. So yeah, I think it's just the wind is sweeping. There's a giant cat, and this guy's fighting this 2-tailed cat. But yeah, super fantastic. The cat looks pretty good in these. Some earlier ukiyo-e and the earlier painted cats often had some very bizarre design features. This one looks fairly normal. This just looks like a giant house cat, to be honest. So maybe that's what it is a giant tabby. But yeah, sometimes they tend to be goofy looking, although I love those, to be honest. I'm not knocking them. I think the ginormous, goofy looking cats are amazing. So, but anyway, in this one, so we have some silver. You can see there's silver in the man's pants, and there's silver on the sword, which is quite common for these. We do have burnishing. So actually, these line work here. You hear me talk about bokashi. These line works are actually bokashi as well. So they've made it so they just kind of did these kind of they put a stop in. So they put a blank, something covering here, and then they just sort of did this. So it gave this kind of faded effect, and it gives a really nice dynamic effect. It's what they did for lighting too, but in this case they did it to make wind or just to make kind of a dynamic movement sort of scene. So just a really nice scene. All the printing is very tight and well done. Gets a little bit off down here in the bottom, but for the most part it's good. We got Suzuki Kinsen signature here at the bottom, and we have the seal. This print was folded, and remember the orange I was talking about earlier that comes from some of the poor quality books that they used? This has it. So these oranges here is very common. It's very, very problematic for Kuchi-e collectors who like to collect, what I would almost like to call pulp. Like there's a pulp version of Japanese literary magazines and Japanese books, and they just used very poor quality materials. And unfortunately, those materials tended to like acidic and dye the papers like this. So you end up with these orangey, yellowy colors. But overall, it doesn't matter on this one because the print itself is covered completely with ink. If it was a print like the more later designs that have more white area, it would be somewhat ruined, although not destroyed necessarily, but it does change the overall color values of the print. In this case, it didn't really do much, thankfully, so I still love this print, and I was still willing to pay way too much money for it. I don't think it's too much money now. At the time, I really overpaid for it because these were not going for those kind of rates at that time. These prints were going for much, much less. At the time, you could have bought these, Kuchi-e in general were probably like $50 to $75. And for a fantastic one, it was like $125. Like I said, I think I paid $300 for this print. So yeah, but I love it and I don't regret it now. At the time, it was probably too much, but I do love it. I think it's a great print. All right, let me move on to the next one. But yeah, for many years, this was one of the most money I spent on Kuchi-e. When I first started collecting Kuchi-e, the prices were fairly affordable. And, there weren't that many people competing. So even if one came up that was, auctioned off or whatever, yeah, when I bought this print, I paid almost $300 exactly. So yeah, very expensive print, but really lovely. And I don't regret it at all now. So let that be a lesson to you out there. If you see prints you love and you think, oh, it's too expensive for what it is, firstly, imagine how you're going to feel if you don't get it. And then secondly, 10 years down the road, you'll love it. Okay. And you'll think, wow, I'm sure glad I paid that extra money. Now, this is a very interesting design. I love this. I've never seen another copy of this. I have seen other copies of that cat print. It is a fairly well collected design. Like I said, there were collectors of Kuchi-e during the actual time when these prints were made. And, those people that, sorry, let me zoom in a little for you guys. Those people who collected back then, they definitely wanted the best designs. They still went for the beautiful women. They went for the most dynamic prints. They did it for all the same reasons that we do. So, that's why those prints are still around. That's why they're still available, and that's why they're still popular. This design, I think, is very unique. Excuse me while I take a drink. For anybody who has a sore throat anytime soon, I learned something new this cold around, which was like sliced up fresh ginger and like a tablespoon of honey, and that's it, and like a cup of very hot water. Unbelievable. Really, really, really does a great job of making your throat feel better. Okay. So here we have a beauty. Again, we have an inset design, but a different one. This is a very, very unusual design. You have a beauty who is writing out a letter, probably to a man, a boyfriend, a lover, a paramour, something along those lines. And she's just really nicely coiffured. So she's wearing very nice clothing. She has kind of courtesan hair pieces. I don't know if these actually indicate courtesan, but she has nice hair pinning, very fancy hair designs. I always associate these with courtesans, but I don't actually know, or geisha. But I'm not sure, to be honest. I don't know that much about that culture in particular of that. So anyway, we have a beauty here, really nicely designed, which again goes to show us that Kinsen Suzuki had the skills to make beautiful women. So he could have been competing with Kiyokata. He could have been competing with Eiho. He could have been taking a different path than the warrior scenes. But he became known for the warriors, and he's most famous for that. So, he chose his own thing, but he clearly had the skills to do beauties if he wanted to. So he could have easily competed with those guys if he chose to. Very interesting printing defect right here. So I'm guessing there was a brush hair. So when they do brushing, they brush the inks on, sometimes a piece of hair will get on the printing, and then somebody over time will peel it off and it leaves a little white spot like that. I don't really care about it that much, but it does happen. There's another one right here. So, they were probably using some fairly hairy brushes that needed some retooling maybe. So anyway, in an event, we have an inset here with some gentlemen that are fighting, some street thugs or just regular samurai, or I don't know. But we have people fighting. You have the dramaticness of the footwear getting thrown off. This guy's overhead with a sword. Probably the guy on the ground is going to be unalived at the end of this. But yeah, just a really beautiful, dynamic piece. I haven't seen this piece otherwise. This is the only one. They spared no expense on the printing, and it's not the thickest paper. It's regular, although actually it is not bad paper for Kuchi-e. Some Kuchi-e are very thin. This one is not actually as thin. So honestly, they really didn't spare expense on this piece. It's really well done. I have no idea what it came from, and I don't know what book it's from. I've never seen the book, and I've never seen this print other than this particular one here. Let me see in my book. Do I actually even is it in the DVD? The Tomo Asahi DVD. Let me see. I don't know. When I started out doing my inventory, I wasn't using the DVD at first, which was a stupid mistake on my part. So now I have to go back and redo all the early books. Obviously, this was book number 1, so I don't know if it's in the DVD or not. But I don't think it is, but maybe it is. But I don't think I've ever seen this before, and that's why I love it so much. Yeah, beautiful design, absolutely lovely. Really happy to own it. And if you can find one of these for yourself, I recommend getting a copy if you like Suzuki Kinsen's work. Sorry, I'm trying to get it so you guys can see the furnishing because it's really lovely on this hair. There it is right there. Gosh, it's very hard to see this. There we go. So yeah, so you can see just how beautiful the burnishing of the hair is. This is what you want to look for here. And you can see it's just a way of accentuating the lines. Silver in the clothing. The men are not overly wrought with work. Mostly all the work was done in the beauty here at the bottom. I mean, the clothing is amazing. It's got like silver effects, got these lettering that's in the clothing. Again, a different signature. So here we're seeing another signature that is a bit more modern, and we have a different seal this time. So anyway, yeah, really lovely piece. I'm really happy that I bought this. I don't know how much I paid. Probably, I don't know. Probably, I don't know. I paid whatever it was that it cost me because it was one of the prints I wanted. You know, I'm sure you collectors out there know that when you find something that you want, um, you know, you can find it cheap. Oh, I want to share this. This is kind of funny. I probably won't ever show this otherwise. This print right here. So people, I have a very popular, I live in the San Francisco Bay Area in California, and there is a really fantastic flea market here called the Alameda Swap Meet or the Alameda Antique Fair, Alameda Flea Market, whatever. It happens once a month. It's always on the first Sunday of the month, unless it's raining, and then sometimes they postpone it. But it has thousands of dealers, and everything has to be vintage. So you cannot sell modern products. So you're not going to go there and find people selling like brand new plungers and you know, stupid clapping monkey toys and stuff like that. It's going to be all antiques, vintage, collectible kind of stuff. Anyway, I go there every single month basically, and I've almost never found wood blocks. And I certainly have never found Kuchi-e prints because they're not even that common to begin with. But then on top of that, finding regular wood blocks, if I find them, they're usually framed and they're in really crappy condition. So I don't bother with anything in a frame normally, unless it's like extremely rare. But anyway, I found this print of all things. I found this print right here by Takeuchi Keishu, and it's actually in fantastic condition. And it cost me $10 at the flea market. So yeah. So yeah, funny, I put on here Toshimine, but it's not Toshimine. That's funny. Oh no, actually it is Toshimine. Wait, actually, oh, you know what? I think I have it mismarked. Never mind. It actually is Toshimine. It's Tsutsui Toshimine. Sorry, I have it marked here as Takeuchi Keishu. I don't know why. I'll have to look that up. But anyway, yeah, $10. So it just goes to show you that sometimes you might be able to find something even you love at a flea market when you're least expecting it. Just kind of interesting. Not very common at all. Like I said, I've been there many times. The few times that I found interesting things at the flea market, let me tell you about some of them. So one time, this is when I first started collecting. I went to this same flea market, and this guy had a stack of prints underneath an ashtray. Okay, so he had a glass ashtray, you know, sitting on a table. It wasn't like a cigarettes in it or whatever. He was selling it as an antique ashtray, but he had it sitting on top of a stack of like 100 prints that were just like sitting there underneath the ashtray, kind of flipping around in the wind like this. And I was just like, geez, that's really awful for those prints. And I just kind of moved on. Didn't even really think about it. Later on in that same day, I went back and I was like, you know, maybe I should just pick up a couple of these. I don't know if they were legit because the internet doesn't work well at that antique fair. Here's another design we can look at for a minute while I'm talking about this. This does have an interesting design aesthetic, which I'll show you guys in a minute. But anyway, just take a look at this scene while I run down this flea market story. So essentially, I asked the guy, hey, how much are you asking for these prints? They were Chubon size, which is, it's not this size. It's about like this. So they're exactly, I mean, they're not exactly, but they're supposed to be half the size of Obon. So they're basically, you know, 7.5 by 6, 7.5 by 10.5. So 7.5 by 10.5, something like that, which is not very far off this. They're close to this size, honestly. But anyway, so he had these. They were landscape prints in the style of Hiroshige. I knew that they had a Hiroshige signature on them, but there was, like I said, there was a stack of about, you know, he probably had 100 of them, maybe 200. I don't know, but they were like, you know, like the wind was coming, and they were just like in the wind. And so I was like, well, how much do you want for these? And the guy was like, you know, whatever, $5 each. You know, something like, or $10 each and three for 20, or, you know, something. He made some kind of deal. And I was like, yeah, okay. So I went through and I picked out like 5 of the best ones, and then I just went home. And when I got home, I looked them up, and they were 100% original. They were Hiroshige III from 1868, I believe, or 78, something like that. And they were from this series about, he has this series, it's like a traveling series, typical Hiroshige style, where they have all the different prints from different areas. And this one talked about, it featured the things that were popular in the area. So they would have like a scene, and then they would have like them catching fish, or they would have a scene and they would have them picking flowers, or whatever the thing was in the area. And I really kicked myself at the time thinking, wow, what an idiot. Why didn't I buy all of those? I probably could have made a deal for whatever, some super cheap price. And even when I paid, like I said, I probably paid $7 or $8 each at the first. And I kicked myself. Anyway, I went back the next month, and the guy still had them. So he still had a huge stack of them. So I bought 60 of them for some ridiculously low price, like $100. And I still have a bunch of them. It turned out that like of the ones he had, like almost all of them, well, not almost all, but let's say 70% of them were the exact same design. So weird. Definitely originals. I've done all the comparisons. They're absolutely the original prints. How this guy ended up with a stack of 70 or 150 prints with 70 of them from the exact same design, I have no idea. But anyway, I've had those prints over the years, and every once in a while I sell some, or I trade them, or I still have most of them. I'll show them to you guys sometime. But yeah, basically I still have about 30 or 40 of them. And over the years, I had a friend of mine who was selling some of my prints, and we sold them for $125 each. And we probably gave discounts and stuff just because we wanted to sell them. But yeah, it's interesting what you can find sometimes. But other than that, I don't find a lot of stuff at the flea market, surprisingly. Okay, again, we have a scene here with, this guy's wearing this headpiece, which gives him kind of a sinister look. I don't know if he's like a street tough or something along those lines. She's clearly, holding her hand up in a defensive gesture. But one thing I think is very interesting is this print right here has blind printing here. It's not that common in Kuchi-e, not always. Let's see if I can even get it to show up. Can you guys see that? So it's basically where you make an impression. There it is. See it on the lamp right here? It's where you make an impression. Oh, there, you can actually see it better with my thumb in the shadow. It's where you make an impression in the paper with no printing. It's called blind stamping or blind printing. It's really nicely done here. It's very rare that they actually use it to this great of an effect. This looks really great. I just think that's lovely. Otherwise, just a really nice design. I just wanted to show you this design aesthetic. These are the things that make these prints special. Here they've also done a very slight light shadow, which is so unusual. Like, yeah, I mean, they did it on purpose, clearly, because it's here, or maybe it's not purposeful, but it sure looks purposeful somehow. Anyway, just a really lovely design, again. Let me show you a couple more. I'm trying to be quick. I know that me chatterboxing while I show you some of these prints that are just interesting to me. Hopefully you guys will be interested in seeing these. I don't know. Just showing some random pieces that I was able to find. I have a lot more, but these are the ones I thought were kind of worthy. Oh, actually, here's that guy with the hand. Here's that one I just mentioned recently. This is a different, oh no, this is also, actually, this is the same artist, but I didn't pick this as one of the designs to show. So yeah, so here it's Suzuki Kinsen, and here's the hand with the lines. I'm not sure what it means. It must have been some kind of glove they had. I don't know. This is a very interesting print. It's I guess it's the same guy. I don't actually know if it's the same guy or not. But yeah, just an interesting design. Yeah, it is. I don't know. It says Suzuki Kinsen. I don't know. Anyway, just an interesting thing. Let me just show you these other prints real quick. This one is just a nice design. Just another interesting, nice design. Had some nice design aesthetic to it. Just interesting. So again, we have a design that shows this curved paper technique, which was fairly common for a lot of Kuchi-e, actually. But yeah, I don't know when they stopped it or what it was an interesting design trope that they had at one time. This print, the reason I picked it is because it's just another example of a print that's very well printed. Just, all the colors fit in the lines. They have this like monk, I guess. I don't know what this woman is. She's dressed sort of like a monk. She has this monk's staff here. She has these kind of things hanging off her. Sorry about the garbage truck in the background, guys, if you can hear that. But then there's these people fighting in the back in shadow style, which is one of the things that Kinsen Suzuki was known for. And I think it's kind of neat. He did that quite a few times. He wasn't the only one. A lot of people did it. Here we have another different kind of signature from him. And we have this interesting effect of these kind of like birds, like bird. I don't understand why they did it like this, but it's kind of neat looking. And it's got this kind of weird. So this ink was orangish green. This was orangish red ink, and it's oxidized. It's quite common for that orange color. Sometimes it's to very phenomenal effect. Sometimes it's horrible. This one happens to be great. Some of them are not great. In any event, yeah, just a really nice print. I just thought this was a very interesting design. I haven't really seen this much. It is in the DVD, so it's a known design anyway. And yeah, just nice, just a really nice design. I just think it's really cool. So I just thought I would share that. And I have, I think, 2 more to show. Hopefully they're really dynamic. Like I said, I couldn't go through all my stuff, so I only had a few that I could go through. Because I wanted to make sure and get this done today. I mean, I actually have a ton of Kinsen Suzuki pieces in this book. I just don't really want to show all of them. And I think I'm just going to end on this last one right here. So this one, again, just another nice design. I do have more dynamic designs by him to show. I just don't have them right here. But I really like this one. I think this is, again, it's just so well made. Now, again, we have the inset here, picture within a picture. Very, very common with Kuchi-e. So this was not at all uncommon. As a matter of fact, it was quite common with Kuchi-e. But yeah, inset within an inset. So here, the thing I like about it is we have this really dynamic, interesting kind of patterned, like a fabric patterned background on the top. I just think it really pops. It makes this lovely beauty in the top really pop up here. So we can see she has, again, really great burnishing in the hair. So that's lovely. There is burnishing also on the collar, if you can see that there. And then there's also burnishing here. And then on the gentleman, who has a nice short haircut, very interesting. Again, in the background, we have a little bit of a typical town scene. He's reading some sort of note, and he has a little bit of burnishing as well here and here. It's interestingly not burnished here. And the design of the clothing is so neat. Like, I love this brick pattern. It's so cool. Like, I just haven't seen that very much. I just feel like this is a very well put together print. I just think it's beautiful. It's very well designed. And you can see the bleed through is very nice. Now we have this. Typically, what these were is rental shop information. So a lot of these books were, you know, people couldn't really afford necessarily to purchase these, even though they were probably very inexpensive. But, you know, people didn't really have a lot of disposable money at this point in time, and so they had rental bookshops, which they still have in Japan, actually, as far as I know. Let me see if I can translate this real quick. So it says Imachi. Here it says Imachi. Unfortunately, the design is partially cut off. So let's see if I can actually get it to pick up this other part here. No, it doesn't want to do it for some reason. Let me see if I can select Japanese and see if it'll pick anything up. Nope. No, it's not doing it. But anyway, it says Imachi. I don't know what Imachi means. I don't know if that's the name. It sounds like the name of a bookstore probably or something. So yeah, just interesting. This is probably a rental stamp. This company, thank goodness, was nice enough to put the stamp on the back. So many of these companies didn't put the stamp on the back. They put it right on the front. And honestly, sometimes it's not too bad. You know, there were some times where they put it like down in the corner here, and it just blends in because the Japanese prints have so many of the seals anyway that it just kind of blends right in. Another thing that's interesting about this particular print is this was folded like this. So it was folded like this. It's very uncommon, but you can see how small the book only had to be. So, but it's very uncommon to find these in this kind of condition. The ones that were folded into fours, they're often ripped here on the side. And this one probably was trimmed. So typically what they would do, I believe I've shown some before, is they have a little bit of a slanted cut here so that they can fold without getting caught up in the book. But oftentimes they're not in a very good condition. This one's been pressed flat. thankfully someone took the time to do that. But yeah, I love this design. I love this print. I think it's rare. I mean, I've never seen it before. It probably is in the, is it? No, it's not referenced in the DVD. So again, fairly uncommon, or at least not included in the 400 copies of prints that they actually included for Suzuki Kinsen in the Tomo Asahi DVD. For anybody who loves Kuchi-e and wants to be able to see designs, I highly recommend you buy the DVD by Tomo Asahi. It is fantastic, and it has, the images are not large. That's the one downside, but they actually allow you to download them if you want. So you can download the oh yeah, here's another one. You can download the images if you wish. Here's another Kaczynski. Here's another Suzuki Kinsen piece. This one I think is really cool because it has a woman washing blood out of clothing. It's kind of a cool design. It's not really in the most fantastic condition, but just a pretty cool piece, and it is also in the DVD. See in the bottom here, number 274 in the DVD. So yeah, so I love that DVD. Again, this one has no reference. So in any event, just thanks a lot for being here. I hope you enjoyed taking a look at these prints that I opened up today. I do have another opening I'm going to do now, but I just want to say thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. Anybody who would like to subscribe and like my video, I would greatly appreciate it. I have 45 subscribers now, which is kind of fantastic for me. I know people have thousands of subscribers. Good for you guys. You know, I am a very small fry in a massive ocean, obviously, but I appreciate every one of you. Thanks a lot. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.